Care Partners. Teresa Youngstrom here with Memory Care with Teresa Youngstrom. Hey, thanks for coming back. We've got a great day planned for you today. You know what? Every now and then, we really need a happy story, a story with a really great happy ending. And so we've searched. I say far and wide, but you'll be surprised as to where I found this speaker. But I've brought Judy Moore to you today to tell us a lot about what she's done to find my own dad, who was 90 years old, an appropriate dog. She's a dog behaviorist, and you are going to love this. I want to introduce you to Judy Moore. I've got a special connection to Judy Moore. She's from Portland, Maine, and she's devoted her adult life to understanding humane training methods to help problem dogs. Judy's passion for dogs exhibiting territorial aggression led her to become president and owner of Canine Behavior Counseling. In 2008, she's certified dog behavior consultant through the International Association of Animals Behavior Consultants, a certified CARAT assessor through the Clothier Animal Response Assessment Tool. Very cool. Above my pay grade, but we're going to learn about that. Judy's programs and services encompass canine temperament testing for breeders and new adopters, bite risk assessments, behavior modification, and international speaking engagements. Please welcome my sister, Judy Moore.
Hello, happy to be here with you, Teresa. This is
Hey,
great.
so excited to have you here. I really needed to bring this story to light for so many because it really is important. And we talk about, animals with people with dementia, with what I do. And you and I have always felt what we do can be so interesting and so similar in a lot of ways. You're figuring out what the dog's trying to tell you. I'm figuring out what the person with brain change is trying to tell us. And we've remarked about how many stories seem to be very similar. And the story about you finding a dog for our dad is so wonderful because dad found himself 90 years old,
Right,
and mom had passed with her dementia, that decade of decline. And the dog that loved them through it, Oscar,
right.
had passed a couple of months after mom, and he was lonely, and he really
Yes.
wanted a dog. But you know what I think a lot of people don't understand is you just can't pick out the cute one. There's
Mhm.
so much more to that. And so we're going to talk about that great story, and just all the work you had to do to find the most appropriate dog, Miss Daisy, for our dad. So let me just back up and say, what do you do for a living so that people understand your credentials?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Teresa. This is fun. As a dog behavior consultant, people will call me as a consultant to come in and change the unwanted behavior of their dog. And what I often tell them is the first step is we need to find out who your dog is so that we can understand why he's responding this way. So, a big part of my business is helping people understand if their dog doesn't do well walking on a loose leash with them, it's got its nose down and it's dragging them. That may be a hound mix and it loves to live through its nose. Or maybe we have that dog who's showing protective behavior and territorial behavior, and people say, I don't want my dog to be protective. And then I meet the dog, and the dog avoids me, saying, I'm not interested in being social with people. So my job as a dog behavior consultant is great because I get to use my temperament testing skills, which is the CARAT that you talked about, the CCA. I can temperament test a dog within about 15 minutes and have a really good idea of that dog's sociability, of its tolerance for petting, of its environmental competence, what's really important to the dog. Is it chasing squirrels or being with a human or eating treats? And and then once I understand who the animal is, I can explain to people this is why your dog's responding that way. I do also include a holistic approach. I do look at the animal and see if there's any joint pain, if we've got a dog that's limping, that's showing aggression, or I might have a dog who is completely avoidant. Well, is that avoidant because I just don't like you? I'm just not interested in being social. Or is it a fear response? And people get confused as to what their dog's telling them. So I spend a lot of time helping people understand who their dog is and why they're responding a certain way.
I love that. And I'll never forget my dog, my lab, Jackson. I thought for sure he's going to be a dog I can take to nursing homes and love on people. And you met him for 5 minutes and said, nope, Jackson's about Jackson. Watch what he, watch the way he comes up to you. And then he turns his backside to you like, can you scratch a little bit back there? It
Yeah,
was so funny. And you're so right.
and when
Jackson's
we
about
try to
Jackson.
make them, we try and make them do something they don't want to do or don't enjoy, be kind of like if your 10-year-old's playing football and all of a sudden you say, "Oh, I want you to play chess." It's not going to go over too well.
Right. If that's what they love or that's what their experiences are. Well, um, what led you into this field?
Great question. Most dog trainers will tell you that they had a difficult dog. I had 3 difficult dogs. I found myself, I was always an animal lover. My parents were animal lovers. My mom was the local Claremont County Humane Society president for 10 years. We always had lots of dogs. So I always had a love of dogs. And dad, too, always loved the animals. But what got me into it was when I rescued 3 territorial dogs. It turned out that they all 3 had bite histories. What was I thinking? My neighbors were not happy. I did not know what I was doing. That's when I joined the APDT, Association of Pet Dog Trainers. I went to every conference I could find. I researched as much as I could about territorial aggression, trying to help my own 3 dogs. Those 3 dogs, 2 of them did really well with positive training and positive reinforcement because I had good mentors myself
Mm-hmm.
through the Association of Pet Dog Trainers. The 2 females did great. They realized that, oh, men will offer food, and when they pet me, it doesn't hurt anymore. Their resilience and their motivation by food helped them really become much more social and much more tolerant of touching. They went on to be, one of them went on to be a therapy dog after putting 7 holes in 3 different Federal Express delivery
Dear,
men.
dear.
However, the male rescue, he was about 1. I socialized him, and the more I socialized him, the more he said, "Could you stop it? If you keep letting people walk up to me, I'm going to keep lunging at them. That's not what I want. I
Right.
want to be your dog." Once I figured out who each of the dogs were and their resilience, Pablo really did not want to be social. He would sit and growl, and he growled at hundreds of people. He didn't need to bite after I realized the growl worked, but he was a dog that continued to say, "I'm not
He
going to
was
be social."
communicating with you.
He was, and it
If we
took me a
see it
while to
like that.
listen. So that was early in my training. And by helping those 3 dogs, then I went on and rescued about 45 other rescue dogs and tried to help them. And really, that's what led me to become the owner of Canine Behavior Counseling, because I realized that much of it was out of a misunderstanding of the dog.
Mm-hmm. Right. We don't really understand why they do what they do.
Right. And
That's,
I love helping people understand what their dog's sociability is, what their preferences are, what their tolerances are. And we have tolerances too, right?
we do. Yeah,
You
because
do.
some of
You
us
give
like,
those,
some like to be in groups and some of us don't like to be out in groups. Some can be in front of a camera or on a stage and others, no way, Jose.
right, right. Even our siblings, we look at our siblings. Some of us are more social. Some of us have a closer use of space. Some people just love to give those bear hugs, and other people have a large distance.
So
Right. So
true.
we all have unique characteristics, and I love to be able to help people understand them with
Yeah,
their
and you
dogs.
helped me understand my dog too, to realize that he's not the one that I should take to a dog park. He's not gonna love that. No.
Right.
Um,
And I love your boy Jackson. He greets me with this gentle little wag, and he
he's a
loves a good
great boy.
scratch. He's a
He
great dog.
he is a great dog, but don't put him in a room with 14 toddlers. He's just like, "No, that isn't what I wanna do." So,
Right.
it's so great to step back a second and pay attention to that rather than just disciplining. I think I grew up just you disciplined them. You know, if they growled, you discipline that. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make that I needed to be educated on, and you've helped me so much with that.
Good.
To
Good.
realize that if he does growl, he's communicating and I need to change him from that situation. Yeah,
Right.
he's not
Leave him
great
out
to
of
be
that setting.
yeah, he
Mhm.
shouldn't be around all the grandkids. That just upsets him and he's like, "Likes, I'm nervous. I need to get out of here. Yuck."
Right.
So great. So okay, we got to get under the story. So, mom has passed away. Oscar has passed. Dad's heart's broken and he's lonely on so many ways. And Judy lives in Maine. and Dad
I
lives in
do.
Cincinnati. And so you come down, and we got 3 days to find him the right dog. And I know some people would have just gone to the local, maybe they just go to the local shelter and pick out a cute dog that looks friendly. But there's so much more to it, and you taught me that. So, okay, it's your story. You have the stage. Go.
What's interesting about this story, and I'm thrilled that you've invited me here to share it. When Sherry, my other sister, picked me up, Sherry and Tom, her husband, picked Robert and I up, and we went to the first shelter. As I'm walking through the shelter looking at dogs, some of the dogs would rush the fence and jump on the fence. Okay, that tells me that that dog has a lot of energy, gets very excited with greetings, and it's going to rush and make hard physical contact. Yes, you can train that out, but that's that dog's nature. It likes to rush and make physical contact, and it gets excited. As those dogs were jumping on the fences, I thought, oh, okay, that's not a good dog for a 90-year-old person
No way.
or a senior at all. Some of the dogs just stayed in the back of the kennel, and they'd pick their head up and be like, hey, I see you, but I'd rather be out sniffing. You don't really have anything useful for me. And they didn't even get up and come to the front of the fence to be social. And they were adorable. They were this beautiful little Springer mix. And he's a beautiful face, but he didn't even come to the fence to see me. He said he wasn't social. If I wasn't important as one person, why would I adopt a dog who's going to put that dog on the weekends in a social setting? And Teresa, you know, our family has a lot of big gatherings. There's 30 or 40
Yeah,
people that come together. I
absolutely.
was looking for a dog that was comfortable with more than one people, more than one person. When I walked through that shelter, there were a couple dogs that would come to the fence, but they would give this low wiggle and their head would drop, feeling they were very unsure and insecure. If I'd reach out to pet it, some of them would submissive pee, some of them would immediately roll on their back, but close their mouth and be very worried. Again, I'm not going to adopt a dog that is shy or skittish and put them in a social setting. Then I went to the second shelter, and they brought this lovely little dog, Susie, in. She was a rat terrier, and she came in just marching around, self-assured. As soon as I walked her, kind of peeked out, watched her walk down the hall. She's pulling on the end of the leash, almost trying to run. I said, okay, there's a lot of energy here. She comes in the room. She smells all around again. Didn't even alert to any of the humans. I was sitting up on a table in the room. I was sitting on a table. I had my husband sitting up with me. My sister was sitting on the floor. The dog never approached her, never said hi. And so I knocked on the door. I said, thanks, Michelle. I said, this dog really wants to live where it can use its nose. Maybe it'd be great if somebody wants to do nose work or tracking. It's not the right dog for my dad. So do you have another older dog, one that walks? You think about a chow that just walks. I'm looking for low energy, low arousal. She brings in Max. Max was adorable. He was a black lab, maybe pit mix with this real frosted muzzle. He comes walking in,
So a
and
little
my heart
older.
just, a little older, he looked like a senior. My heart started to warm. He went right up to Sherry, licked her in the face. She's petting him. I said, pet him a little rougher, look in his ears, rub him all over. I'm asking questions. What if the grandkids pet you? How are you going to feel about this? He blinked his eyes. He leaned in. He turned around. He walked around, sniffed a little bit, went back to Sherry for more affection. I thought, this is great. He's social. He likes petting. And he stayed with her as long as she petted him. So he was patient. Then there was a flyer on the table, and I pushed it off. And as it hit the floor, it was sort of a magazine. When it hit the floor, it startled him. He jumped and he ran for the door, and he leaned against the door and he started to shake. I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, come here, Max. I used some treats. I got him to come over. He kind of sniffed the magazine, but then he was done. He went back to the door. Again, if you have a house full of people, children, busy household, it's not fair to put a dog that sounds sensitive in that environment. So I knocked on the door. I said, Michelle, I'm sorry. Max is a fantastic dog, and he needs a person to call his own, but he sounds sensitive, and it wouldn't be fair to put him in the social setting.
Right.
And I really explained to
Because
her
he's going
again
to
what
get
I
in
was.
trouble. He's going to get in trouble.
Or what if every weekend we have friends over, Max had to go sleep in the bedroom? That's not
Yeah.
fair.
Good point.
He's going to say, oh, I hate it when Grandpa has people over. That's not what I was looking for. And I explained to her a little bit more about being really friendly, enjoying tactile touching. Then I peek out the hall, and she's walking this brown dog. Do, low energy. The dog's walking, not trotting, not pulling on the leash, walking, low energy. Opens the door, she comes in. I hop on the table. She trots right over, open mouth, soft wiggle, not a lot of wiggle, not appeasement over the top, soft, loose back, soft waggy tail, blinking, leaning in. Sherry's petting her. She's loving it. I said, okay, this could be the dog. Sherry, pet her real rough all over. She's tolerant. Tom, Robert, could you guys go over and crowd her? Come over top of her a little bit and ask her the question, how are you if multiple people come around you and pet? And she looked up, open mouth and blinked. She said, the more the better. I said, okay, you guys could sit down, thank you. And I shoved the magazine off, and when it hit the floor, she looked at it and she looked at me and said, you got
Big deal.
anything else?
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I said, so if Dad gets older and needs a walker or a wheelchair, it's not going to bother you? She's like, yeah, no, I'm good. Her nervous system was right where it needed to be, right where I wanted it to be. She didn't go into that passive, hesitant, unsureness. She didn't become activated with high arousal.
And
She
she wasn't
just
an old
looked at me.
dog. She was not an old dog.
No, I think they said 2. I thought she was probably a little younger than that, but I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm not a vet. But I said, Michelle, this might be the dog. Can we take her outside? So as we walked outside, she's walking down the hall. And what I love about this was when I walked her out the front door, I got about 15 feet from the door, down the front sidewalk, and I could see a hound. It was a coon hound walking off in a distance. She sniffed a little bit of the grass down the sidewalk, which you would expect, right? She's been in a shelter for almost 2 months. She's been there.
2 months.
And I stopped moving and I said, what do you do if I stand still? And she looked back at me and said, well, are you coming? She didn't pull me off on her own agenda to go smell the important dog's pee smells that were all over the
Right.
place.
Or
She
go
looked
rush
at
and
me and
see
made
that
eye
dog.
contact
Yeah.
and said, where do you want to be? And I thought, oh my gosh, I just kept getting goosebumps. And then I asked the woman, I said, could you bring that coonhound a little closer? And she walked in and she leaned in, but she had an open mouth, not high arousal barking, nice wiggly
Explain the
tail.
open mouth
And
thing. I don't think people understand what you see when they do that.
open mouth is about relaxation. If a dog is intense looking, if you go through pictures of dogs, if they're intense focused on something, they're going to close their mouth and clench it tight. A dog who is about to bite is going to clench their mouth tight. An open mouth dog really can't bite quickly, they'll bite their tongue. Open mouth is just about relaxation.
Okay. Good sign.
Lip lick, yes. Blinking is about relaxation. Flexion, soft flexion. Tension throughout is an arousal. It's that nervous system that's firing up. That's not what I wanted for my 90-year-old dad or any senior. She just leaned into the leash and said, I like dogs, but wasn't over the top. And you know, Teresa, that's important, right? I think you've taken, and so the story ends, yes, Daisy was that perfect dog. And I turned to Michelle and I said, when can I take her home? And we adopted her that day. And
Wow.
as you know, Jackson has been over and I believe Jackson likes her.
Oh, he loves her. Yeah.
And who doesn't love Daisy?
That's right. She'll play with anybody, but she'll also let you know when she's done and she wants to go
She
back in
is,
the house. She's a great watchdog.
she's
My
alarm
goodness.
barker.
Yeah, in Dad's family room still, there's that one big picture window and the blinds are left a foot open so she can hop up there and say, "Who's out there?
I
Who's
love
on
that.
my street?" She's a great watchdog. She has a really good bark, but
I love,
she doesn't nuisance bark, she just doesn't
no,
bark for no good reason.
no, like I said, her nervous system, she's not a fearful dog and she doesn't become overly activated. She just lives, her nervous system is in a really nice, calm place. And she needs a human to call her own. And what I love is she seeks out Dad. She follows him when he moves, right,
That's
from
true.
room to room. She will bump his arm and say, can you pet me?
Mhm.
So she needed a person. And I could see that while I was testing her and asking her in 15 minutes all these questions, right? Assessments is about asking questions. And she answered all those questions and said, yeah, I could do that for your dad. And Dad needs a dog. And it was just a beautiful match.
Pretty remarkable too because she had a tough start. I mean, tell them about her history.
What we knew was that she was found, I believe in Kentucky, tied outside. I don't know if she'd ever lived inside, but she was tied outside. She'd been left alone and tied. She was very much underweight, but her collar, no one loosened her collar. No one loved her, cared for her enough to loosen her collar as she grew. And the skin grew over the collar.
Ugh.
And even though, and they had to cut it out, it was embedded in her neck. And even with the lack of socialization and the lack of kindness with people, and maybe grabbing her collar you think would cause pain, she's still social with people because that is her nature. Her nature is to be friendly with people, to be tolerant of petting
Quite
and
tolerant.
forgiving.
Yeah. That is so cool, and it's such a happy story, and we're a few years past that now, and it's still, she's so great, and now that he's on his walker, she will follow him back to the bathroom and wait outside the bathroom for him. It's just so amazing, and like I said, good watchdog, but, people come and go all the time. We got caregivers coming and going, and, we have some caregivers that bring their dog, right? And we have siblings that bring their dogs, and, she's great. She's really, really great. It was so amazing what you were able to do and just your insight into that, because I think just so frequently we're buying the cute dog or the right whatever size dog you're looking for, and people don't have the wisdom that you have, the insight to understand what's really going on and how they're communicating, like the open mouth or closed mouth thing. How are they communicating to you? So I just
And
find
both
it so remarkable.
and
I
both sides of that leash, right? We have to understand what is your environment when
Mhm.
you're looking to adopt that dog. What is your environment like? And then what is the dog telling you? There's the two, and determine if it's a good match for both.
The blessing was he had a fenced yard. Now I do
Mm-hmm.
remember her getting out though once, and she was looking. She is an investigator.
Mm-hmm.
If she gets
Mm-hmm.
out, she is an investigator.
I
But
think she has a little terrier, and I think she's lab terrier mix.
yeah, and she was younger, I think, than we thought. She was young, but still, as a younger dog, still
Mm-hmm.
so great and able to rest when he rests. Able to hop up on the couch and be with him, when we leave and he's there. So,
Yeah,
so great. I got
it
some more
helps that
questions.
I. Yeah, no, ask me. Let's
Yeah,
do
yeah,
this.
yeah.
Let's do it.
So, well, I think we kind of talked about in what ways Daisy has helped Dad in general. That
Great.
companionship,
Mm-hmm.
super great. Is there a particular breed that's better than others? When you're looking for a dog, say for an older person.
That's a great question. When we think about dog breeds, I think it's good to think about the groups of breeds and what they were bred for, because their genetics will give you a little bit of insight into what they enjoy and what their preferences can be. For example, how many cattle dogs have you seen that are therapy dogs? Or how many border collies are therapy dogs? Those are those working dogs, right? Working dogs have a generally genetically have higher energy. They really they want a purpose. They want to work. They have an innate need to have a job and to complete a task. They're persistent in nature. We want to think about what is the breed, but also it doesn't really matter if you go to a breeder or if you go to the rescue. You can find you can find a border collie that wants to be a therapy dog. You can find a golden retriever that will bite you if you pet him, that he just doesn't enjoy tactile touching.
It's amazing how you would think that these breeds all would have the same personality, but they don't. They have personalities like people.
They
It's
have
amazing.
very, very much different personalities. And I tell people, you've got this adorable white Westie. Don't be surprised when it's digging holes in your backyard. These little terriers were bred to go underground and get the rodents. It's what they're innately bred to do.
They're going to put
And
holes
we
in your
have
yard.
absolutely, or the Kubas or the Rottweiler. There are lovely Rottweilers that make great companion dogs. The key is you have to look at that individual dog. You have to say, okay, so you're a Rottweiler. Do you want to be an emotional support dog? Do you prefer to stay with one person? Do you want to be a therapy dog and want to say hi to everybody in the room? Oh my gosh, he's got to go say hi to everybody. That would drive me
Mhm.
crazy. Or are you standoffish and you're going to growl when people come near because that's what your genetics tell you. We
Right.
really have to stop looking at breeds so much and really look at the individual dog. And I think that that's an important piece.
Yeah, my retriever has to retrieve stuff every day. You
He
have
loves
to
it.
throw for him every day or he's restless. He's restless. And even at night, you know how he is at night. If you sit down to rest, he's going to bring you a toy and expect you to throw it across the room or a ball or something, and he wants to continue retrieving.
Well, Labradors, Labrador retrievers, I mean, they are working dogs. They were bred to work, and he likes to have a job.
He does. He
He
does.
does. He likes to have a job. But you also got the lab that is social and tolerant and he's pretty low energy for lab. Yes, he does like to play, but he's not crazy off the top where if you talk to him, he can't hear you.
Yeah.
He's quite thoughtful.
And I think part of that's maturity too for him because he is 8 years old now. I think years ago he might have been more high energy, but
Yes,
anyway, but we did learn he does not want to be put in a room full of grandchildren. That is not his thing, and that's okay. That's okay. I
great for you for
understand him.
recognizing that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, let's see. Do you recommend a senior getting a dog, and why or why
Ooh,
not?
that's a great question. It depends. I think the biggest thing it depends on is that support system. You and I are very lucky. You have 7 siblings. I have 7 siblings.
Great siblings?
I'm the only one that lives out of state. I live in Maine. I'm very blessed to have my 7 siblings live here near dad. That was incredibly important to me. And I think I said to you guys, I will come and find dad a dog. However, I need to make sure that you're all going to be willing to help support Daisy, make sure she has good nutrition, because we need to take care of her nutritional needs, her physical needs. She needs walked once in a while, getting out of that fence, because just running around the yard is not enough physical exercise for most dogs. And I think I brought up that question. Can dad financially afford a dog if she gets sick? She looks healthy, but if she were to get sick, is a dog going to create a financial burden and create conflict in a family? And that's something that people also need to think about. And I think just their environment in general. There are some environments where it's not conducive to walk the dog down 3 flights of stairs and outside 3 times a day to go
Mhm.
potty,
Right.
right?
Yeah, and with my group of wonderful people, people that have brain change,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's not always appropriate to get them a pet. And if they live alone, because if they are forgetful and they have trouble with their short-term memory, I mean, even the dads, we have a chart there, and everybody checks off that she's been fed twice a day. But I've had family members think that, oh, we'll get Aunt Jane a dog. That'll be great. Let's get her a puppy. It'll be so sweet. And I said, well, hold on just a second. Let's think about that because will she
Mm-hmm.
remember to let that dog go to the bathroom? Is it a fenced yard? Oh, no, she has a condo. There's no fence. Oh, red flags for me because I can see this dog getting let out to go to the bathroom and away it goes, and she might even forget that she put it outside. So we've had great, great animals with people that have brain change if they're in a situation where there are either they're not very far into their journey or there are family members there and it works out great. They can absolutely
Yeah.
provide incredible relationship and joy to
You
people.
can't, yes, and not to interrupt, it can, but you brought a story to me really quickly. There was a client of mine in an assisted living building, and I had matched her with a Sheltie mix, Roxy. As the client aged, she was forgetful. They were not wanting her to do her walk anymore, and she was really upset by not doing her walk. And I said, "Well, I can train Daisy or Rosie. I can train Rosie to complete the same walk and come back to home always." And they said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Look, this dog is incredibly food motivated." So I spent about 2 weeks walking Elizabeth's path, and she never deviated. She walked her path, and it was pretty much on the grounds of the facility where she lived.
No kidding.
And the dog knew the trail. And every time the dog would come back in, I had a Kong sitting right where my client would put her keys. There was a Kong that was stuffed, and the caregivers could stuff this Kong and leave it there. And as soon as the dog came back in, "Here's your Kong, go to your bed." Let me tell you that there were many times that the caregivers called and thanked me and said, "Our client just took Roxy for a walk on her own, and thank God she came back on her own." And I said, "Yes, because Roxy knows that when she does the pattern, that coming back home is
Gets
important because
rewarded.
she gets her Kong." She
Mhm.
was rewarded by that behavior, and as long as I knew, she never deviated from that. So it was really, really, really nice. I think she did that path even in a walker and as well as in a wheelchair.
It's a great story, and the dog wasn't on a leash to pull that person over, because we see that a lot. We get a lot of broken hips from individuals who are walking the dog, and a rabbit runs out. Uh-oh, and there they go. They jerk them, they lose their balance, and they fall. And so, there can be
You're just Go ahead.
so whether to have, a pet for a senior, you're right, it depends.
It depends. And finding that right dog, and you're describing an agreeable or biddable dog. a dog that when you put it on the leash, it's not going to drag you around. A biddable dog and agreeable dog, often people breed, good breeders will breed for sociability, tolerance, and biddability, which is what we want. It makes an easy dog, and that dog is not going to yank you because being with you is important. And if you put them on the leash, they're not going to hit the end of it. They're very agreeable animals, and it's a genetic trait. And you know this. We know when we want a task to get done, there's certain people you ask and it's always going to get done.
Mm-hmm.
And other people are like, yeah, I'll get to it when I get to it. Right?
Yeah.
I can think of one of my children who'll be like, yeah, I'll get to it. And another one who will do it that day.
Right.
But it's a genetic trait. And those are the things that we look for our seniors to have, that really agreeable, low energy, patient dog. And those are important.
I think that's so great. I don't know if we'll be able to put this picture up, but I'm hoping we'll be able to get it up later. That day that you brought Daisy to see Dad, and I don't know who bought her that new bed, got her a new bed, and just telling the story of that bed, it was just so great.
Well, when we took Daisy home and I handed Dad the treats and I let her know this was going to be your person, and I took a step back and he fed her the treats and he petted her. And I asked him to take her around and show her the house. And as he took her around, I asked him to take some cookies to her nose and lure her into that bed and have her lie down, which she did so easily. And he fed her those cookies. And I said, Dad, every time every day when you're going to rest, you could lure her into the bed and feed her cookies. And it was
dog treat cookies. Dog treat cookies.
Dog treat cookies.
Yeah, I know you're.
It was 2 hours. Yeah. It was 2 hours, 3 hours after she was there, and Dad sat down to take his nap.
Right.
And she curled in that bed, and you could see the tag is still in the picture. We didn't even get the tag off the bed.
Right.
And she lay down to take her nap. And I know this is probably a little too detailed for people, but she can mirror. There are dogs who model behavior for their humans, and there are dogs that mirror their humans' energy.
Wow.
And Daisy is one of those that she can mirror Dad's energy. And when he gets up and goes, she gets up and goes with him. But when he comes and lies down, she's willing to lie down and take that nap. And she mirrors his energy. And it's just a beautiful thing.
And she goes to bed when he goes to bed.
I know.
It's true. Yeah.
I know.
All I can say is the other siblings, we were so excited that you were able to, fly in and manage this, because he really did need a good companion. And there were a lot of specifics, a lot of boxes we had to check in order to make it a good pet for him, something that wasn't going to knock him down, right? Too much energy, or that was going to get so freaked out when so many people come and go with a big family. And all I can say is you nailed it. It was perfect.
Well,
she's still perfect.
Thank you. The blessing is in the training, is in understanding how to read dog body language. That's the blessing of being able to find the right dog for the right human. And it's why I've done several matches within the state of Maine with veterans. I've done 14 matches in the state of Maine of finding the right dog for the right person.
We really didn't talk about your business. Maybe you could give us a little bit, tell us about what it is you do and how people can get in touch with you.
Well, as a dog behavior consultant, I love to answer people's questions as to why their dog is doing what they're doing. And I have my business set up so that I can do in-home visits. People can bring their dog to me. I also do Zoom visits with people all over the country. And it really is about gathering information from them as to what behavior they want to change and why, and then understanding who the dog is and why it's behaving a certain way. And sometimes we can change that dog's behavior in a positive way. And I only use positive techniques. I'm not going to put a prong collar or a choke chain on a dog. And I love being able to create that relationship. And that's what brings me joy, is bringing that bond between the human and the animal, because it makes both of them happy, and it meets both of their needs. And I also love going to breeders, lovely breeders who, I have 8 puppies here, and I have 8 people with an application, and I'm not sure if they should get ruby or they should get green collar or blue collar. And I will go through and assess each puppy using the Clothier Animal Responsiveness Assessment tool. And I say, okay, green boy, no kids. Red boy, he'd love to do agility. Do you have somebody that wants to do classes? and I help them understand which dog goes into which home. People should not always get to pick their puppy. It really should be based on the temperament of the dog and the environment that they're going to.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's incredible. Well, time
Fun.
has really flown by. And what a treat to have my own sister on my podcast. This has been
Yay.
so wonderful. But I do understand you have a gift for my listeners.
Oh,
So tell us
I,
about
I
that.
I do. I thought it would be handy. I've created, I call it a handy guide to finding the right dog. I didn't write a book for you guys, although I am writing a book if anybody's interested. It should come out by the end of the year. But I've created this guide to give you some tips so that when you go to look for your next family companion or your parents' next family companion, that you can ask the dog appropriate questions to make sure that you get a dog that is going to fit your lifestyle, your children's lifestyle, your home lifestyle, or your senior parents' lifestyle. So I'm really excited to be able to share the handy guide with everyone.
Okay, so that link will be in the show notes. I'll make sure the link's in the show notes. And also, do you want people to get a hold of you by email or go to your website?
I will, Teresa, I will definitely send you the link to my website. And I have a lot of free information in two places. If people like free information, they can go to my website and read my blog. I have written blogs about how to train the territorial dog, how to understand sociability. I've written a lot of blogs that I think people will find useful. I've also created a YouTube channel. Now, my YouTube channel is mostly right now on dog to dog relationships to help people understand why their dog is reactive. There are so many reactive dogs in this world, and I'm trying to help people understand why there is reactivity. So the YouTube is mostly about dog to dog relationships, but my blog is about the lots of different problems. And if they sign up for my newsletter, each time I do a blog, I send out a newsletter. So if they signed up for the newsletter, that would be a really nice way to follow my work.
Very nice. We'll get all of that in the show notes. I'm very excited. This has been such a treat for me. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I think my listeners are going to be very excited that they were able to hear this. Listen, everybody, her videos are fabulous. Check them out. It's so great for her to talk as the video is going on, and you have such a better understanding of why this dog in the video is doing this. And you like, oh my gosh, yeah, look at that. Oh my gosh, yeah, I never noticed that before. But look at the way he's standing. Look at the way his mouth is. Look at the way he's turning and he's trying to tell that dog, I'm done with you, but that dog's not listening. Oh my goodness, so educational. So again, thanks everybody for being here. Please, please, please like and share and subscribe. We really want to share information with so many more people, and there are people out there hurting. There are people out there thinking they should get a dog for a senior and maybe need some really good, great insight on the best way to do that. Okay. Thanks again, everybody. As always, keep in mind that you got this.